From her fingers' graces to your beautiful faces, it is the one and only Maivrpinger. What is up? Today we have a quick and dirty special awards ceremony for a few of our players. I've come up with a couple different categories, just some fun awards to give out from our time in this series, because it has been and will be about 80 episodes long. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. I'm gonna start with series MVP Allen Riley. Should come as no surprise to anyone. We've been saying it throughout the series, but to make it official, Allen Riley is our series MVP. I don't think there's much of a contest. 2 years, over 2,400 yards, and the third year he got to 1,000, even though he was injured for like 6 games. Alright, the next category will be the top 5 draft picks. At number 5, I chose James Rowe, simply because he was a last round pick, and he's been our kicker since after season 1 when we got rid of Phil Dawson, or rather Phil Dawson retired, but if he didn't leave, we were planning on kicking him out anyway. Number 4 is Ono Swanson. I believe from the third draft, first round pick, cornerback. I kind of underestimated the need for a cornerback when I drafted him at the time, because I did have Trevor Williams as well as Patrick Peterson. But given the fact that they were both kind of aging, especially P twice, definitely necessary to get that depth. Number 3, Carlos Salas. That's right, the first pick we ever made in this series falls on my list at number 3. Yeah, just a great lineman, great guard. He should finish somewhere else and probably have a pretty good career, if not Hall of Fame worthy. Number 2, Wyatt Koyak. This one is kind of a value pick. He was a star 78 overall, if I remember correctly. I think I got him in the 4th or 5th round. This one's unique in that I never actually played with him once, but just way too talented to pass up. Star development. Number 1, Allen Riley. Yep. Again, we just got to get on the Riley train. Can't say much more about it than, of course, he developed into a 99 overall, I think, at the end of year 1 or the beginning of year 2. And it's kind of just been going strong ever since. Alright, the next category, top 5 free agents. Number 5, Ndamukong Suh. It is another player that I never actually played with, but rather an acquisition in the last free agent episode. Just kind of too good to pass up such a pass rusher. Happy to sign somebody like that to our team. Number 4, Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson was another flyer pick that I believe actually made it to 99 overall. I don't think we were ever starving for talent there, but he did reach 99 overall and played phenomenally, getting close to the top defensive list a couple times. Number 3, Ryan Ramczyk. So yeah, we actually signed Ryan Ramczyk and changed his position just on the line. And he actually got a touchdown in our series too, which is pretty neat, but he was a 99 overall lineman. Really solidifying that line for the perfect 16-0 season. Number 2, Trevor Williams. Trevor Williams, what can I say? Just a nice cornerback piece, a true number 2 to Patrick Peterson. I think we got in our second free agency period, and yeah, just won like 3 Super Bowls with. Number 1, Myles Jack. Myles Jack is kind of weird because we signed him in the 3rd offseason, and he actually got injured in the preseason for season 3, and then became the defensive player of the year in season 3, even though he missed 5 games. Kind of an incredible pick, and he definitely showed that he deserved to be on this list. Alright, the next award is the top 3 unexpected surprises. Not really like tops or anything in any particular category, but just kind of nice breathing pieces that did stuff and things at times. People that I didn't expect to make much of an impact. So number 3, Bo Scarborough. We signed the undrafted free agent, especially at a time where David Johnson, I believe, had an injury, and we needed some depth there. And the running back came through for us, kind of being a workhorse for a little bit. Just a small period of time. Made an impact, I believe, season 2. I did not re-sign him, even though I thought about possibly doing so, but I just thought running back depth would be easier to draft, and eventually I did. It just took me a while to get around to it. Number 2, Nicholas Watton. So the funny thing about Nicholas Watton is that he played no full games for us. He was a backup quarterback in the year we went 16-0. He had to finish out the Vikings game, and that's the game we scored the most points in ever. And his quarterback rating was perfect. Like, he missed all 3 passes, and I think he was responsible for 5 touchdowns, 4 throwing, 1 rushing. So that's pretty fucking incredible. And then he also threw a touchdown against the Chicago Bears. Not too much more to say. Just could have been a phenomenal player if he was one that I was trying to develop, but at that point we already had a young stud, Josh Rosen, who was close to, if not already, a 99 overall. Number 1, Justice Blake. Justice Blake is probably the most unique player because he was another cornerback drafted into a crowded depth chart. Like, this was definitely a pick that seized the opportunity to potentially do some climbing. He was only a 74 overall and like normal development, but I swear to God, like early and often he made some interceptions. I think he got one in the Super Bowl to end the series, as well as like a pick 6 and another interception against like the Detroit Lions earlier in the season. And then just some good coverage situations when I guess our stars were trying to catch their breath. Not necessarily the most impactful and probably wouldn't make much of a career, but I mean for the series, just a very welcome surprise and did some really cool things. Alright, we've got the Most Improved award, and there's only one player I really feel can do this, and this is almost a cop-out, but that would be Colin Clinton, because he was a 71 overall when we drafted him in the first draft of the series. He's also got superstar development, so of course he was going to improve exponentially. But I do think as far as pass rush goes, he was definitely pretty good. Probably much better at run blocking, because I noticed the year we went 16-0, we were actually pretty good against the run, except for some of those just whiff tackles that gave up some really long runs. Besides that, I don't think any team could really run too consistently against us. Alright, the next one is the worst 5 draft picks. These aren't necessarily bad players. It's more just a lack of contribution to the series, I'd say. So at number 5, I actually have Cedric Tate. He's not at all a bad draft pick. He's quite the opposite. He was like a 79 or 80 with a great development trait. I think the biggest problem is he was just another vertical threat loaded in a class with lots of vertical threats, like number 3 tight end on the board, because I already had Ricky Seals-Jones and David Njoku eventually, and it was just muddied. In fact, he could probably go on to be something after the sim takes place. Just beforehand, he didn't do too much. Number 4 is Josh Solomon. Not so much because he didn't do anything. In fact, he actually did some things in the series. I think he just literally is the worst draft pick I made. He was a 62 overall. I had nothing to go on, no information. I just ran out of picks, and he was a scheme fit. He did definitely play a little bit. I think he got a touchdown or 2. Maybe could have been a developmental piece, but not really worth the project. More or less just trying to fill up some depth. But yeah, definitely the worst overall pick I had made. Number 3, Devin Barnes. I kept forgetting Devin Barnes existed. Like, plain and simple. Developmental piece behind some other people. I'm sure he could develop into something. I think he was like a 72 to 74. But as far as our team goes, we already had the depth necessary at his position. Number 2, Ryan Snyder. Same kind of situation as Cedric Tate, except the fact that Ryan Snyder was worse. 71 overall, I believe, normal development. I don't think anything really stood out. I kept forgetting I had drafted him as well. So, yeah, there's that. Number 1, Mac Gilbert. This one's kind of obvious because it's a pick that I forgot that I made. So much so that when it came time to cut our roster down to 53, we cut him. We didn't even cut Josh Solomon, and they were in the same draft. I think it was another guy that I just had to take a flyer on because I didn't scout as well as I could have in the later rounds for just fill needs, especially getting some late round picks. Maybe in the future I could deal some of those late picks to try and move up a bit. And I actually tried that a little bit in the last offseason to trade up. But yeah, I think overall in the future, maybe scout a little better some of those really late picks. All right, the next category is the top 2 trades. Number 2 was the trade with the Bears. So I believe I traded left tackle DJ Humphries for running back Assad Brooks. I was in need of some depth, and after David Johnson's injury, of course, Chase Edmonds and Josh Solomon really weren't cutting it for me, and I needed like a strong third rotational guy while waiting for David Johnson. And I think Assad Brooks became a little more than that. He actually also started returning kicks significantly in the series. I know I cut most kick returns because they didn't really net too many extra yards, but it is nice to see a player you trade for take on an active role. Number 1, the trade for Wyatt Koyak. So I actually, this last offseason, traded up with the Atlanta Falcons to get a guy that looked like he'd be really good and was being undervalued, Wyatt Koyak. And sure enough, he was, I think, the best player of this last offseason draft and could be something by the time we do the sim 10 years, maybe plus into the future. So yeah, I thought it was a stellar pick. All right, I have one more award to quickly give out to an individual player. It's one my wife came up with. It's the Sat on His Ass Award. Basically speaking, it's not necessarily a bad player. It's more like a lowly contributor. They didn't do a lot, and they were a lot better than they were utilized, I guess. So the Sat on Their Ass Award would go to Nick Alexander, in my opinion. Drafted basically right after Frank Wagner, and I feel like he caught, I don't know, like maybe 5 catches, maybe slightly more, but didn't do like a ton. And I think around the end of wherever he got in his development, he was like an 84 overall. That's not bad. Like that's some pretty good skills for a wide receiver. Like at least a wide receiver 2 or 3. I think the biggest hurdle he had was that we just had really good wide receiving depth like the whole series, thanks to Christian Kirk and then Allen Riley. J.J. Nelson came into his own, of course. And our tight ends were always vertical threats, so they were pretty nice to pass to. And then Frank Wagner was just slightly better than him. All right, last but not least, we're going to do the worst 5 games. These aren't necessarily, like, I don't want to say any of the games I played were bad, and they're not really necessarily based on my commentary. I know some of my commentary were probably better than other games. I just mean like the entertainment value physically of the game. I had to go through this really roughly and really quickly, so my opinion could eventually fluctuate in the future, but for now, this is what I found, just quick and dirty. So number 5 would be episode 67 against the Chicago Bears. I don't think it was a bad game. I don't have the scores in front of me. I'm going to preface that now. In editing, you'll see some clips, but the only information I have is the opponent and if we won or lost. Everything else is from memory. But I do remember winning that game, and it was just kind of meh. Like, I think I threw maybe a pick or two. There were some turnovers for sure. Watton came in and threw a touchdown. That was kind of nice. But beyond that, I think it was just like 21-6. I don't even think the Bears scored a touchdown on us. And I didn't really feel like we were going to lose at any point. It was kind of meh. Number 4. This is episode 5-1. It was a 2-game episode against the Minnesota Vikings that we lost hard. We got blown out. And if I remember correctly, I think that game looked like it could have been good. And then just some mistakes snowballed quickly. And the game became terrible. Number 3. Episode 10 against the Green Bay Packers. This game was... I guess it had its moments because there was like a huge turnover. Both that I threw an interception and a fumble in the end zone. But the end score was 3-0, and both offenses were just like stagnant the whole time. I don't really consider that like a great game. I guess a nail biter, sure, who's gonna win, but not really a great one. Number 2, episode 75. So this is actually the NFC Championship against the Washington Redskins. We crushed them 35-7. Kind of built up to be like a measuring stick of where we came, and in that regard, we actually came and pummeled quite well. Like very exciting that we did so, but probably kind of a boring watch, I'd imagine. Number 1, episode 2-1 against the LA Rams. So we didn't score a point, and they blew us the fuck out quickly. So I really don't think there is a lot of debate for what the worst game in this series was when I went back and looked at every game. So yeah, there you go. All right, the last category we have is the top 10 games of the series. Again, this could change. I tried to diversify as I did in all of these lists to cherry pick from each season. I could easily bloat this list with a lot of the games from season 4 because we had a lot of nail biters, and there are a lot of them on here. I tried to pick from a little bit from every season. Number 10, episode 12-2 was the Seattle Seahawks game. We actually won, but the finish is incredible. We were down 10-0, I believe, and then we throw like a 32-yard touchdown on 3rd and 30 something to JJ Nelson to get our first points of the game. Then I have a chance to win it. Then I screw it up with a turnover. Then I get a safety. Then I get the punt back, and then I kick a game-winning field goal. That game might be hard to watch at the beginning, but I definitely feel like its finish raises its value. It was the last game of season 1 and really set a tone for what the series could and would ultimately become. Number 9, episode 15 against the Carolina Panthers. So this game was awesome. Had a lot of scoring. Josh Rosen went down with an injury like halfway through it after throwing like 2 touchdowns, and then Mike Glennon had to come in. It was a great time had by all. We actually lost this one 38-35, I believe. We just had 2 quarterbacks. They performed awesomely. Just some turnover mistakes and some dumb things happened, and we couldn't win. Number 8, episode 47 against the New York Jets. We actually lost this one as well. I wasn't too particularly happy with it at the time because we got a 1 or 2 score lead after coming back, and then we kind of pissed it away. It's been that game that I knew was coming somewhere because of all the mistakes the team was making. While we were able to pull out a bunch of these at the end, like on 4th downs and stuff, this game is the one that just kind of bit us in the ass. But I actually think it's the last game we lost in this series, and it was back in season 3. So I guess it also marks a turning point. Also, I got my field goal blocked, bitches, and that was returned for a touchdown. Number 7, episode 24, win against San Francisco. So this win, I feel like, was a tone setter for the rest of the series. Season 2, we beat San Francisco, a team that I think only had like one loss, and we beat them in overtime. This kind of established our team as a team that could beat good opponents, and we rode that momentum just moving forward to basically only lose like 2 or 3 more games throughout the rest of the series. So I think that's an incredible turning point for the team, and the game itself is phenomenal. They scored on us, and then we scored a touchdown with our last drive in overtime. Number 6, episode 31, against Atlanta. So this was our first time in the postseason. We went into overtime against the Atlanta Falcons. It felt like we had the game in the bag, if I remember correctly, and then all of a sudden some mistakes and key things and what have you actually let the game get tied up. And that was a lot of fun to deal with because I like digging myself a grave if I can get out of it. Number 5, episode 65, against the Green Bay Packers. This is another game that went to overtime. It was kind of a back and forth affair. If I remember correctly, we actually had a pretty good step on them in the beginning, and Aaron Rodgers did what he did best, tied up the game, and then it was just kind of, terrifying. But we were ultimately able to kick a field goal with like barely any seconds left, and the Hail Mary attempt did not allow them to get in field goal range enough to tie it. This was one of the first times that season I was like extremely worried we were actually going to lose, because I was trying really hard for 16-0, but I only have one chance to play each of these games, win or lose, so I was really relieved to pull that one out. Number 4, episode 62, against the Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, this game I thought I had in the bag the whole time, but I just didn't play deep enough with my linebackers and secondary, and Russell Wilson kept his team in it. They actually scored like right there at the very end. It was 38-36, and they were going to the 2-point conversion. And I just saw us going to overtime, and I'm like, oh my god, if we go to overtime, I'm fucking losing this game. Luckily, we were able to stop them on the 2-point conversion and like escape with a win. I don't even feel like we deserved the win that day, but we got it. Number 3, episode 66, against the LA Rams. So this game gets so high up on this list because there were some weird things about it. We actually got down 21-0 in our pursuit of a perfect season. How the fuck does a team that gets down 21 points go perfect in a season? Well, we were able to come back, and one of those touchdowns was actually from our lineman Ryan Ramczyk when David Johnson fumbled in the end zone. So that was fucking phenomenal. This game, by that alone, deserves to be pretty high. Number 2, episode 71, against Dallas. Yes, another game that was like back and forth that I felt like was kind of out of our grasp. I was really worried we were going to lose. It's the game where just Allen Riley, man, catching that football on 4th and goal to give us the lead. Oh, I'm going to miss Allen Riley, I swear. Number 1, episode 33, against the LA Rams. Of course the fucking Rams would be on this list one more goddamn time. They are the team we played most in this series. This was our first NFC championship, and it went to overtime, and it was fucking terrifying. I actually thought we were going to lose this game, and in a way, kind of would have been okay with it, purely for the fact that Season 2 for a Super Bowl win, even appearance, feels super early. But just letting the games happen how they happened, it's the result we got, this tight game against the Rams, that David Johnson, I believe, rushed for like 5 fucking touchdowns, and just a phenomenal performance there. It was a lot of fun to be a part of it, especially what it meant, especially being Season 2, especially being before we had done anything, and especially against a division rival that earned that spot. 1 seed versus 6 seed, and the underdog comes out on top. Basically the 49ers game earlier, but on like a shitload of drugs. So yeah, definitely my number 1 game. It was kind of really a series changer where we went from this incredibly bad team without a shot to a dominant team for 3 seasons essentially. And the turning point really is around this area. This game is the one that showed that we're going to be a dynasty for at least 3 seasons. So I think this game was majorly important to the series. Alright, and that is all the awards I have to give. Thank you so much for watching this series to this point. We have the 10-year sim coming up. Thank you so much for watching, and remember that Jesus was born in a Maivrpinger.